A case of evidence of the elusive Sasquatch and Dogman activity.
Pull the wood right off.
This was something the local government did not want discussed.
I was told after my second Dogman encounter to expect the government knocking on my door.
A haunted tale from a sleepy little town.
You don't even want to know what's in the woods.
And a seasoned firefighter who comes face to face with a mythical beast.
55-year-old nurse, firefighter for 20 years. Faced everything you want to face on the road. And I don't want to leave my room.
This family has been plagued with a cryptid presence for generations.
I have to tell you, I am terrified.
The BLB is on the case in the Stony Creek Files.
I like that tie.
I like that shirt. How you doing?
Good.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know about that.
We're here to do what we can. You know?
Nice to meet you.
You too, sweetie. How are you?
We only meet.
Who's this guy?
This is our cameraman Nolan.
Nice to meet you, Nolan Richards.
When we first got the original call to come check out what these folks had happening at their house, I wasn't actually too surprised because I had been listening to some shows online, and I did hear about some Dogman encounters that were in that general area. I just didn't put it together that these were actually the same people.
It was like a can of worms. It was like somewhere we'd never been before, something we never done. We'd tracked down the big man, but never that werewolf.
What you guys are about to hear is 100% authentic and genuine. Let's start out by introducing ourselves. My name's Adam Hyde. I'm part of the BLB. And here we have...
Jake, I'm part of the BLB.
We have Nolan, the cameraman over here. He's been in the BLB for a couple of years now. He was our apprentice film guy. He went to film school. And now he's working with us when he can, when he's not at his real job.
He's not quite as good looking, but we don't hold that against him.
I'm Danny.
Danny, nice to meet you. Danny Dutcher.
I'm Clara Dutcher, Danny's wife.
Nice to meet you guys.
You guys too.
Again, thanks for having us into your home here. It's a pleasure. This is the first house call we've ever been on. We've only been doing research out in the woods. We've never done what's called a habituation, where Squatch come and give people a problem at their home. And that's what we're here for.
Well, I've been in the area, a firefighter. 20 plus years, I'm a nurse. My son, ever since he's 5 years old, has said, Mom, there's, things chasing him in the woods, things looking in the window, things, and I'm like, I was never opposed to Bigfoot. Things that he's seen many things, and I'm like, Jared, things like that don't. I'm thinking he watched something at somebody's house. I thought he'd seen something, on TV.
Sure.
I can't tell you how many times that kid come home running, because we used to live in Hadley on a dead end road right by the Sacandaga River, and he's always down there fishing. And he'd come out, he'd be white as a ghost. You see more and more of this stuff and how they hide and they stand still. It's amazing. And it's like my son said, he goes, Mom, you don't know probably how many you have walked right on by. One night he left his fishing pole down at the river. There was a stream of kids. I want to say he was probably 13, 14. He goes, Mom, there's something down there. I'm like, I just spent $200 on that rod. I said, you get your butt back down to the river and get it. I'm scared. So I drove the car and tried to point it down, but couldn't. The headlights are hitting the tops of the trees. So I went down over the bank, and there's a little path, still there. We got maybe a quarter of the way up the hill, and this thing sounded like a jake brake on a truck. The engine brake, yeah. This is Jake. I told him don't be bad. We have a dog and Nolan.
Hi.
So this is my daughter Laura. All of a sudden I know I was on Jared's shoulders and he was pushing me up the hill. I had no idea what that was. I never heard anything like that in my life. That close, you know, never around Stuart Bridge Road in Hadley. Never. Nothing. Why don't you tell them some of your experiences?
So how old are you?
I'm 36.
36, that's it, huh?
I know I was around 5 or 6 when my aunt took me and my brother over to my grandmother's house. It was my parents' property, my grandmother's property, then went over to my great-grandmother's property. I was over to my grandmother's house when I had to go to my great-grandmother's. Our Aunt Heidi took both me and my brother, I want to say 10, 11 o'clock at night, over, and in between my grandmother's and my great-grandmother's, there was a driveway that was 4 or 5 cinder blocks, right?
Yeah.
Something literally just stood up, walked right out in front of us. They had no care in the world. I literally had to stand up and look like this.
Really?
And I could actually put my arm out like that and touch it. Big. Really big. It's bigger than a bear. Black. When the moon hit it, it looked purple. That's how dark it was. And it didn't look at us. It just walked. And you could tell his head was round. And then, you know, kind of like a little bubble mouth. I didn't see any ears. And it just walked on 2 legs. My aunt won't even talk about it. She won't mention it. You mention it, she'll just walk away.
My oldest sister was born in 1956, and she said she was sitting at the end of her great-grandmother's driveway, playing in the dirt by the road, and said there was a big monkey walked right across the road, right between my grandmother's house and garage.
To me, it is very interesting how these encounters have been happening throughout generations in this family. There's got to be something to it, Jake, don't you think?
Probably some kind of code.
I always thought it was just because of the geographical locations these families grew up in. But they moved, Jake. These people moved, and it's still happening.
That sounds like a case of Sasquatch stalker, which is even more disturbing.
Let's listen to more of what they have to say.
Just little things throughout that I can remember myself that I walked out to we were in the logging business, so we had, always selling firewood, and, the driveway was always dotted with firewood to be split, and I walked out to get the coffee cups out of the car. It was a Jeep, actually, and I opened up the door, the passenger side door. He was parked across the driveway, so the driver's side was against the road. It was a dead-end road. Nobody was ever there. There was only 3 or 4 neighbors. And so I opened up the door, and the light came on. I grabbed the coffee cups. As I was shutting the door, I seen something else that I needed in the truck. So when I reached back in, something slammed that truck so hard that, I don't know if you know what a pinch point is, or in the car door.
Sure.
Where you use you have to use the jaws of life to get people out. It left a dent the size of a football. And now I'm telling you, all you can do to pry those things apart with the jaws of life. And the door was jammed. I ran, left the door open, ran. I didn't hit a piece of firewood getting back in. I dove on top of, of the person I was with at the time. And I'm like, there's something out there, And he couldn't open his door. He went out and he didn't see, there was no blood, there was no hair, there was no nothing, but there was a giant dent. And literally, it looked like a football.
Sounds like these people have really been through hell and back. And I hope we're bringing our A game on this one, Adam, because if they want a little bit of respite and be able to sleep at night, we're going to have to kick things up a notch.
You had that sighting, that encounter back when you were just a young girl. Did you feel any vibrations in the ground or anything like that? It was just quiet.
But it was, nothing was even up. No insects, no nothing. It was dead silence. You didn't feel it. And it didn't even like get cared that we were there. And I don't know why it was, I don't know if it was sitting or crouching, but it stood up on two legs and literally just walked. Didn't run. And it didn't take them that long either to get maybe 4 steps to get across.
I mean, this one's right out of the book. Standard Bigfoot behavior.
Sauntering across the road in just a few steps.
A large, dark figure.
Textbook.
The deer, yes, there's lots of deer up here. But they'd be standing in the middle of the road in groups, and they like,
Don't know where to go.
they didn't know whether to move or, and if you seen one that was on the side of the road that got hit by a car, you go down to the store and come back, it's gone.
Yeah.
There's one right down here at about 8 o'clock at night. We came back at about
8:30.
8:30, quarter to 9, and the deer was gone. And that deer was dead. Pippin.
I have never, can't recall ever seeing deer as I have up here in the last 3 years scared. These things are terrified.
On that river where I grew up, there's a trail. And one night, it was me, my brother's friend, and this older girl that was there. I went back up to the tent around 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And about 10 minutes after I got in there, something literally came up to the tent and just shook it. You didn't hear anything come up or leave or nothing. You didn't hear any leaves, no rocks, no nothing. You just, that's nuts. You don't see them until they're on top of you. You don't hear it at all. You'll never even know they're there, but you can always just feel it. Everybody that goes up messing around here is not from the area. They're always
No,
from,
they're not.
they're not from the area.
Around here.
It's
Very
people
seldom.
from out of
People
town.
around here know not to go in the woods after dark.
Yeah.
When I had my Camaro, she wasn't supposed to drive. She wasn't supposed to drive, so I was letting her drive because I was tired. She gets out of the car, and she's like, "What's that?" Of course, you could, the Camaro, they're short and squatty. You can look right over the top, no problem. I'm getting out of the passenger side, so I'm next to the woods, right?
But we
as
also
soon as-
smelt that.
As soon as I opened the car door, there are no houses. All you could smell is this sewage and decay, rotten meat.
It's a nasty smell. Once you
And
smell it, you can't.
You'll never forget
You
it.
never forget it.
And all you could see, about 4 trees in, 4 sets of trees in, was a black spot, maybe this big, and you could see it was just swaying back and forth. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, just hurry up and get your butt around the car and let me get in behind the steering wheel. And thank God I
Just
had a
wanted to
Camaro.
turn around and go back.
I
wanted
still
to
think
go
I got
back.
rubber tracks down there.
She always asks me, "You want to go back?" I'm like, "No."
We can hear the bears, so we call the bears. But one night, the bears were they were grunting. They were coming up. And that way, up on top of the mountain, you heard a sound. It sounded like an owl, but it wasn't an owl, because it was two. An owl's got that little high pitch. This didn't have a high pitch. It was like, woof. Every bear we heard shut up. You didn't hear him the rest of the night. We couldn't call him back down. No. Then, the night we saw it on the road, when we had the Camaro,
That wasn't a Bigfoot.
what it was.
Yeah, well, I know what it was.
She was staring right at him.
This was not a Bigfoot. This was a Dogman. without a doubt, a Dogman.
Put the car
All I
in
could
gear
think
and
of when
go.
it walked
She wouldn't
across the
move.
road right in front of it. I put the car in park, and I am
Yeah,
like,
she
no,
froze.
I didn't freeze. I rolled down the window, and I'm
She
like,
rolled down the
what
window,
the
she's
hell
staring
is
at you.
that?
And I'm going,
Guys, things are getting a little heated here with the Dutchers. And I gotta tell you, that's a standard, your typical reaction, a standard sign that what they saw and what they've been going through is authentic.
The way they get all excited like that. Something happened. They saw something. You know this is real.
go home.
And then it walked across the road, just meandered across the road. And I'm like, all I could think, I'm running these animals through my mind, you know, and I'm like, all I could think of was this is gonna sound absolutely stupid, was Wile E. Coyote. But, you know, I mean, not a scrum. That's all I could think. I'm like, Wile E. Coyote. And I'm like, that's not Wile. And I'm, you know, as I stop, Dan's like, please don't stop, please don't stop. Just go, 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 go. I'm like, stop, I want to know what the hell this is. He's like, no you don't, no you don't. And I stopped, it walked across the road, walked down the little embankment, came right up, and it put its claw part of it, its hand, and it turned and looked at me. It was all black, but its face was white.
You can tell when people make facial expressions like this, like the way Clara's eyes are rolling back in her head and whatnot. This is disgusting her. It's making her almost sick.
And the eyes looked like I was looking in the embers of a fire. I don't know how long I sat there. The no cars came by. I seen two of these, two different ones. One by myself and one with him. And the only, I don't know, I haven't thought right since, to be honest with you. Its eyes just look like coals. Next thing I know, I hear Dan, he's screaming like a little girl. Go, 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 go.
I don't hear Dan arguing that.
And it never moved, it just watched us go. And I'm like, we shouldn't have left, we shouldn't have left, we shouldn't have. I want to turn around and go back. Whatever, it was like hypnotizing me with its eyes or mind melding or something, but it was like, I have call me crazy, call me what you want to, but I consider myself well educated, you know. Been a nurse since I was 25 years old, so 30 years of a nurse and able to run fire trucks and right along with big boys, you know, putting out structure fires, search and rescue, EMT. I can't get my thoughts together. They're scrambled. And it's like, what is wrong with me?
I mean, you gotta feel for these people. It's cryptid PTSD.
I went down to see my sister because she had lost a friend, and I came home. I was there longer than I should have been. I came home at about 5:30, and I know exactly where it happened. All of a sudden, right out of the blue, this Bigfoot, not Bigfoot, excuse me. This was a Dogman, but it was a different one. It was huge. It was gigantic, and there is no mistaking a Dogman. You see one? I told my son, I said, this stuff doesn't exist here. For 53 years, I told him, I was 53. I'm 55 now. I said, this stuff don't exist. I had to come home and eat crow and go over there and tell him, I'm so sorry. And the one that I seen that day, well, that evening, it just literally stepped right over. I literally slammed my brakes on, and it just stood there, and it was like so pissed. It had the fangs on this, the teeth and the hands. I didn't roll down my window this time. I remember I'm grabbing my cross, and I'm saying the Lord's Prayer. I have spoke to one other person about Dogman, and can I say his name?
Sure.
Vic Cundiff.
We were talking about him on the way here.
Love that man. Love Dogman Encounters. And I've been on 2 shows of his because I did both my sightings with him. And he calls and checks on his people, see how they're doing. Great person.
Oh, then what happened?
Yeah. Give us every last detail. The second.
That was a shocker.
That's what I'm going through my mind. The second one that I seen, this big one, I'm like, I wanted to close my eyes, and I'm holding the and I'm like, details. Get the details, Clara. Get the details. And my mind's going, no, you don't want the details. You don't want the details. Oh, okay, you'll never forget this. You'll never forget this. And I'm like, I'm not gonna forget anything. Yeah, I'm like talking to myself in the car.
You can't unsee it.
You can't.
Yeah.
And so I got the details that I could, and then as soon as it was there, it was like into the woods, and all I can remember is like seeing the poison sumac. It just shimmered, and now after seeing certain things like watching Missing 411, where they have caught these squares shimmering, I'm kind of wondering, do we drive from like one vortex or dimension? And no cars came then either. There's always a car up and down this road, even though there's not a lot of people, but there are people coming home at 5 o'clock from work. Both of these happened around 5, 6 o'clock at night. She's seen a wolf-like creature come out and cross over 418, which comes back 418 as it goes from here to Warrensburg the back way. And it's called the Warrensburg Road. A lot of people call it the Warrensburg Road. I didn't get the address, but she said, I couldn't believe we're standing here listening to the scanner. A wolf-like creature walking on 2 legs had just come up over the bank across the road from her house, walked across the road, and walked across her lawn, went into the backyard, and she would like to have somebody come and investigate. You do have your people that say, oh, it's a bullshit call. We've been here 500 times. I don't care. This is the time their house is really on fire. It's not just the weird smell coming from their furnace. We have had that happen when we were firefighters in Columbia County. We had a nursing home constantly going on. You'd be like 3 or 4 times a day sometimes down there, and people would be like, this is a bullshit call. You got to the point where only one truck was rolling. Only one truck with 2 or 3 people was rolling. Well, one day, it was a structure fire inside the walls, and now what are you going to do with 120 residents and staff? And you got a driver and 2 firefighters. The driver was a firefighter, but somebody's got to stand out there and get people here to the scene now, And so you start EBRing or mutual aiding other companies, with their fast teams or anything that you can get to that scene. And there isn't much, I have seen many things that I wish I could erase from my mind. Kids, suicides, stuff like that. Car accidents have been absolutely horrific. And stuff drownings down here at the HL Bridge, things I'll never forget, ever, that you carry that with you every call. But there's never a bullshit call. When somebody hits 911, they're scared. There's something that they need help with. I don't care if it's just somebody go and hold their hand and say, honey, it's okay. The power went out.
For sure.
It's okay. Who do you call other than the BLB? Who do you call when it becomes cryptid? When it gets beyond your scope of rationality? We've been sitting right out here before.
The dogs are just running in the hall.
Bang! Sounded like somebody took your whole china cabinet and knocked it on and there's nothing. I did have one thing that I never could explain. My grandmother always said it was a buck. But I used to use my grandma's car to go to work, so I worked 11 to 7. So I was always out walking in the dark. And I'm walking, usually my light would be on, my mother's light would be on, and my grandma's light would be on. And, I got outside, my mother's light wasn't on, nor was my grandmother's light on. And all of a sudden, I'm probably a third of the way there, when I didn't hear nothing. All of a sudden, something was behind me, and it went, and it blew my hair right around I went through my grandmother's door. I didn't bother to knock. I didn't tear. I went through her. I tore her door right off the hinges.
That's like the night Jay and I were outside. My buddy and I, we were outside, and neither one of us were drinking. And we were standing out here talking. And we heard this bang. So we walked up back up the driveway. And we happened to be looking at the roof, and there's rocks bouncing off the roof. And I looked at him and I said, "Where's your kids? They're not home. These two teenage kids aren't home." I said, "Where?" "They're down now." I said, "Well, something's going on, Jay. This kind of shit don't happen." So we walked down to the front, and we're standing there talking, and the rocks are bouncing off the front of the building. Then we walked down to the road. We're standing there talking, and I mean handfuls of rocks. I mean rocks are like this big. Are coming over. You got a tractor trailer out there, over the top of the tractor trailer, and they're hitting that roller. I mean they're bouncing off. And I told you, I said, this is not cool. This is not cool. We came back up here, and I was standing in the driveway, and he was standing over in his, and I was looking over this way, and he yelled to me, "It just ran by you." I didn't hear it. He didn't hear it. He saw it. Never heard it. He's got chickens. So when this is in the daytime, we're out there and we're talking, and his rooster goes shooting across the yard. And right behind it came a piece of a log about that big and about yay big around. And it took that rooster out. The only two outside were him and I. When we lived down there in Columbia County, I was coming home one day and I had a little Chevy S10 pickup truck. And this is daytime. I'm going down the road, and this thing, I don't know, Bigfoot or Dogman, he crossed the road and stopped right in front of my truck. And I was sitting in the truck, and I could see him eye to eye, and he was on all fours. First thing I thought, well, it's a wolf, but then I go, no, ain't no way there's a wolf that big. And he had like the shaggy, and his snout was like long. And I went up and told her, and she goes, nothing. I said, Bolton, nothing. I said, in broad daylight. But I was the only car coming down the road at that time. And that's a major highway. And I was the only car there, right by the airport.
Another sound that I have heard, like I said, before I seen this stuff, I didn't think Bigfoot was a bad thing. I don't think they're a bad thing. I think, like the area you're in, they're either used to you or they're not. Right. We grew up, up on Stewart Bridge Road in Hadley. We all grew up there, so I think the whole family or whatever, whatever their family unit is or isn't, sure, or however many there are, they may watch you, I've never had that fear of anything other, I'm more afraid of a bear trying to eat me or something. I had a bear run away with blackberry bushes in her backyard. And
yeah, you're between a mother and her cubs.
Well, my never called me at work and told me, oh, there's a bear in the backyard eating blackberries. What do? I pull into the car, my grandmother's, and I walk up and whoof, right in front of me. And I'm like, that was nice. Oh, I forgot to tell you there was a bear in the back. But getting in the car here numerous times, I'm pointing towards Thurman. There's a mountain right over here, and there's a mountain right over here. We're in a series of mountains here.
Mountain behind us.
There's a mountain behind us. But something I've never heard before, and I have lived here, I was here for 35 years. And now, we've been back for 3. I am like, what the hell is that? It was like, whoop! And I mean, I could pinpoint where it was, and then, whoop!
They talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it was so loud, I'm like, who the hell can't hear that? I'm like ready to pound on people's doors. Again, things are running through my mind. What is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? I've had things walk in front of me and across the road, stand there with flares or a fire truck, or sometimes we had 154 calls one day because we had a blowdown up here. And I'd sit there by myself in my own personal vehicle with no radio, answering calls. Everybody had, you had to do what you had to do to get those calls answered. And, I seen a lot of things, but never nothing that I couldn't explain. But these whoops, I was talking about the loud whoop, I don't know, do it again. But it was ear piercing. The world isn't the way it used to be. But this past January, it was 20 below zero. And this has unnerved me so bad. And you can ask Laura, you could probably count on both hands as many times as I've been out of this house since then. Not 10 times. I don't even want to. I used to let the dogs out at 2:30 every morning so they go potty. I had a golden retriever, and she passed away here a couple months ago. And I had the two little dogs. Or I say little, they're probably 20, 25 pounds.
Like 50.
But I let her out that night, and she went immediately to like a point. And the other two just froze in their tracks. Nothing growled, nothing barked. And all of a sudden, I heard this evil, creepy little like, and I'm like, I muted my TV, and I look, I come back, I muted, look, my TV was muted, Dan's was on Law and Order. And I could hardly hear it. I had to walk partway down the hallway to see what was on TV. And I'm like, you're losing your mind. And I'm like, I go back, I open the door, and the dogs are still, she was perfect pointer. And their hair is all standing up on their back. And again, Kristen, Jake, come and get in here. And I was screaming at them dogs to get their attention, to get them back in here. That was the last night I ever let my dogs out at 2:30 in the morning. Whatever this was, it was 20 below zero, and I don't know what the wind chill factor was. It was brutal. Yeah. And 2 years ago in February, just to give you a quick synopsis, in 23 days, here in this yard, 6.4 foot of snow in 23 days. I have to tell you, I am terrified. 55-year-old nurse, firefighter for 20 years, faced everything you want to face on the road. And I don't want to leave my room.
The guy that lives next door, he used to live down in the hollow. And his father told him that up on the mountain, there were these things they called the hillside clincher. Basically, a Bigfoot-like thing. But it scared him and his brother so bad they wouldn't go up on the mountain. And that's what those guys used to do, was hunt all the time.
It was me and my brother. And we had about 4 or 5 people over that night with us. We saw a light in the back window, so we shut off all the lights.
Pippin.
And from one edge of the balcony to the other end, you could see it just go back. and it was going too fast for somebody walking with a flashlight. And when I say our backyard, it's all trees and black bushes. You can't walk back there at night by yourself. You have to have
That Pippin is too much.
Yeah.
So like an orb, a
It was
light
like a-
going from one end of the property over way quicker than a person can move, over like a briar patch
Yeah,
kind of area, really thick, just kind of going back and forth.
just going back and forth, just keep going back and forth. It was there for a while too.
And it is nothing, and as you guys know, it is nothing but woods from here to Canada, and
Beyond.
for as long as you can go, for as far as you can go. And it's like, you know, how do you explain the unexplainable? You can't. And I have to refer back to missing 411 where this 3-year-old boy, mother let him out to play in December, and she walked out and he's not there. And she, followed his track, realized she needed to get some help, went back, called for help. Thank God they found the little boy. 19 miles as a crow flies over 3 mountaintops, and he's laying face down in the middle of a frozen lake with his clothes on inside out. How does a 3-year-old go?
Like, and that's when my brother told me that a lot of the paranormal stuff also coincides with the Bigfoot, the Dogman, and stuff like that. And he said that he thinks they're either going into like another dimension or parallel universe or something, or they came from a spaceship.
I was told after my second Dogman encounter to expect the government knocking on my door. I think via the government, we're being conditioned through our own televisions to start accepting things you're going to start seeing because they can't control it anymore. I was told, expect the government to start knocking on your door. If you listen to some of these, and like I said, my major encounters had been with the Dogman thing. I up until recently had never really thought. I thought Bigfoot existed. I didn't realize that they could be as bad as they can be.
I've never heard of any Bigfoot killing anyone. Dogman, on the other hand, you look at him and you know,
You need to listen to
Stop for
Bigfoot
blood.
I'm going to turn
encounters.
around and get the frick out of here because this bad boy going to take my ass off.
Yeah.
Well, they got the equipment to take out. I think the Dogman could easily handle it. So, I don't know.
Man.
I don't know.
I
The
would
one that
not
I
wanna-
seen,
I
when
would
you
not
got
wanna get a
something that's
Bigfoot
like 8,
pissed
10
off.
foot tall, and it's got claws on it like steak knives and
Yeah, but-
muscles all over it.
You know,
This is a real tough one, Jake. Who do you think would win in a fight? Bigfoot or Dogman?
Dogman's wily, but my money's on the big guy.
When I seen that one Dogman when it vanished, in the shimmer, I thought it was just the poison sumac, and now that I think back on it, it looks just like what the predator looked like in the trees.
We have a couple things for you guys, some ideas that you guys, if you're willing to, we could get some equipment here to set up that has been proven to deter these things from coming around right around your house. It's not going to stop them from coming way out in the woods there, but it'll probably keep them from coming right around your house. And the two major things are security lights. Now they have, me and Jake have been researching these
We
lights
have them.
that are high-powered LED lights that don't run your electricity bill up, but they're bright. And you can get the kind that you can have on a timer, and you can also get the kind that run off the solar panel. That'll, when it gets dark, they'll come on, and they'll stay on all night. I'd like to go out with you guys and check it out. Check out the outside of your place, because if you put them up properly, if they light up the area enough, it's supposed to keep them at bay from coming up close to your house. That's one thing. Another thing is a simple hunting trail camera, and not a security camera that you buy for your house. A trail camera.
Yep, trail.
And you put it in a spot. You're going to want to get some good AA batteries and put those up in a spot. Get one with the infrared. Supposedly these things can detect the infrared, so they don't come near them.
I'm sure that they can, They know every nub on every tree. Last August or September, my kitchen window.
Yeah.
My kitchen window. My
Yep.
neighbor tells me this like 3 weeks after the fact. I've always had this window here has creeped me out. Smoke said, "Oh," he goes, "I forgot to tell you."
He told me that night.
He told you, but he didn't tell me because I asked him. He goes, "Yeah, I forgot to tell you." He goes, "You had a small bear looking in your kitchen window 3 weeks ago." I go, "A small bear?" He goes, "Yeah, a small bear looking in your kitchen window." I go, "The one at the front?" He goes, "No, the one right here." Well, my son is 6'2". He went and stood. He had to jump to even look into the window. So security lights and a trail cam.
I'd like to go walk around the house before it gets too dark.
Okay.
When you guys want to go, would you like to come out with us?
I'll let him go with you. I'm gonna get dinner.
Get dinner going? Excellent.
It's all done.
Awesome.
I seen it. I thought it was the pink. I'm like, shit.
Oh yeah,
I'm like,
that's our favorite. I mean, the blues are good too, but that's my favorite. I don't know about you.
I thought it came in a 6-pack. I'm like, what?
Gnarly dude.